faithfully delivering value by interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we're interpreting the book The Scholars by Wu Jingzi, a novelist from the Qing dynasty. In China's official histories, like the Book of Han and Draft History of Qing, there are separate sections, such as biographies of Confucian scholars, to honor Confucian scholars' achievements and promote Confucian ideals. But Wu Jingzi's novel uses this in the opposite sense and is titled The Scholars. Why? Confucian scholars were ancient intellectuals whose main mission was to pass down Confucian classics and maintain moral education. However, the intellectuals in The Scholars differ from the moral-focused scholars in official histories. They become morally corrupt due to greed and fame, leading to societal decay. Thus, Wu Jingzi titled the novel The Scholars as a supplement to official history. It was written around 1749, but wasn't printed until over 20 years later in Yangzhou. The novel was initially circulated among Wu Jingzi's friends, who praised it highly. For example, his friend Chen Jingfang said, "The Scholars records Confucian scholars with exquisite portrayal, meaning the characters' flaws and vivid images are vividly depicted." Modern scholars like Lu Xun called The Scholars the greatest satirical novel in Chinese history. Hu Shi further groups The Scholars with Water Margin, Journey to the West, and Dream of the Red Chamber as China's four great classic novels abroad. Some scholars believe Wu Jingzi is no less than great writers like Cervantes, Balzac, and Dickens. So, how does The Scholars portray intellectuals, and why is it the greatest satirical novel? Next, I'll briefly summarize the story of The Scholars, and then, by interpreting the novel's themes, satirical art, and Wu Jingzi's thoughts, we'll delve into this classic together. And first, let's talk about the general plot. The Scholars unfolds chronologically, from the late Yuan to early Ming dynasty, all the way to the Wanli era, spanning almost the entire Ming dynasty. The novel superficially depicts the Ming dynasty, but actually uses Ming events to portray the fate of intellectuals during the Qing dynasty's Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong reigns. Lianlong. The novel is in chapter style, with 56 chapters and over 300,000 characters. However, there's no single protagonist throughout. Each chapter centers on different characters, and a main character in one chapter may become secondary in another. Therefore, Lu Xun said, though it claims to be a novel, it resembles a collection of short stories. This means although it's called a novel, it actually functions like a collection of short stories. The characters in the novel are extremely complex. According to statistics, the book features men from royalty to thieves and servants, totaling 505 named male characters. There are 126 women, making 631 characters total, only 90 fewer than Dream of the Red Chamber's 721. These 631 aren't all scholars. They include civil military officials, merchants, gentry, hangers-on, knights-errant, heroes, servants, actors, alchemists, prostitutes, monks, truly all walks of life. Wu Jingzi portrays varied responses to fame and wealth, critiquing imperial exams to expose hypocrisy while presenting virtuous characters embodying his humanist ideals. First, let's examine the critique. Wu created many characters obsessed with imperial exams for fame and fortune. Prime examples are Zhou Jin and Fan Jin. Both names means advance, symbolizing exam success. They debut as Teng Sheng, scholars yet to pass the Shuchai exam. Zhou Jin, over 60, failed Shuchai 30 times. In Ming or Qing dynasties, passing Shuchai qualified one for provincial exams to become Zhu Ren. Thus, Zhou tutored for Zhu Ren Wang. Enduring sarcastic mockery, Wang ate chicken, fish, duck before him. Zhu only had old vegetables, while sweeping bones, fish bones, and melon seeds. Soon fired, he followed his brother-in-law to trade in Nanjing. Passing Gongyuan exam hall, he begged to enter. Overcome by exam failures, he banged his head unconscious, then wailed and rolled on the ground when revived. Later, merchants funded his exam fee. His luck turned. He passed provincial, then metropolitan exams. Finally, ranking in palace exams, he became Guangdong Education Commissioner, overseeing exams himself. And Franjin?
4. He passed Shuchai only at 54, after Zhou Jin read his paper thrice to discover talent.
Encouraged by Zhu, Fan took provincial exams. Upon passing, he went mad with joy, cured only when his butcher father-in-law slapped him. For a scholar, passing the provincial exam means gaining the qualification to become an official, thus leaving behind a humble commoner status. No wonder Fan Jin clapped and cheered. Then, like Zhou Jin, he became the Shandong Education Commissioner. The novel sets these two men in their 60s, only knowing the eight-legged essay as chief examiners selecting talent for the nation, ostensibly praising their relentless effort as models for candidates. No, Jin. In reality, it satirizes the decay of the Qing court's official selection system. In the Qing dynasty, scholarly honor and wealth were two sides of the same coin. Passing the imperial exams brought honor, which then led to riches. So, after becoming officials, many people's first priority is to seek profits. Actually, since the Yangzheng era, Qing officials, besides their salaries, also received honest nourishment silver, Yonglian yin. But despite this, local officials still found ways to embell money. For example, Magistrate Tang of Guiyao County in Guangdong pocketed 8,000 taels of silver from various taxes in 1 year. And that's just for a county magistrate. Prefects 2 ranks higher earned even more. As soon as Wang Hui, the prefect of Nancheng in Jiangxi, took office, his top concern was what local specialties there were and how he could profit from lawsuits. It's important to know that a Qing prefect's salary was 105 taels of silver per year, plus 2,500 taels of honest nourishment silver. That means serving a 3-year term as Nanchang prefect brought in just these two incomes, totaling 7,800 taels. Additionally, they extracted income from various taxes and fees and also profited from lawsuits. The same goes, a 3-year clean prefect gets 100,000 taels of silver, which, though exaggerated, shows how deep official corruption was. Some mocked Wang Hui, saying that as an official, he only cared about embezzling money and flogging people. Practically a cruel official. But Wang Hui brazenly claimed he was serving the court. Moreover, Wu Jingzi depicted many sycophantic local tyrants and evil gentry in the novel, showcasing a broad social panorama. The gentry in the novel included Zhu Ren, awaiting the metropolitan exam, officials who resigned and returned home, or retired officials. Gentry were generally wealthy, often colluding with officials to tyrannize the countryside. Yan Jiansheng is a typical example. He often boasted about being straightforward and never taking advantage of anyone. But in reality, he frequently bullied others, extorted money, and even didn't spare his own relatives. After his brother Yan Jiansheng died, he oppressed Yan Jiansheng's concubine and his own nephew to seize his brother's estate. Zhang Jingjai, a gentry who was a Zhu Ren, saw that after Fan Jin passed the exam, his rise to prominence was imminent, so he eagerly visited to congratulate him, claimed to be Fan's classmate, and gifted 3 houses and 50 taels of silver. On ordinary days, Zhang Jingjai abused the power of the gentry to act recklessly. To get the monk's land, he conspired with tenants to trick the monk into selling it cheaply to himself. Moreover, many who failed the imperial exams still obsessed over fame and fortune, leading to deceiving the world and stealing reputations. Wu Jingji satirized these fake scholars and hypocrites in the novel. These fake scholars loved writing poetry and joining literary events, deliberately packaging themselves to gain fame, then associating with officials for higher social status. They frequently held group gatherings, reciting poems and composing couplets to pretend to be cultured. Once, due to insufficient funds, the Westlake Poetry Gathering had to be held at a monk's home, filling it with a shabby atmosphere. A so-called poet Nu Bui's poetry collection, was accidentally found by a rural youth Nu Pulong, who, sharing the surname, printed his own name on it. And using Nu Bai as his pseudonym, he joined the Westlake Scholar Group, attracting admirers and even fooling the county magistrate. When the real Nu Bai's wife came searching, she exposed Nu Pulong's fake identity. Revolving around the central theme of fame and fortune, Wu Jingji exhaustively depicted the societal conditions of the scholar class. So, what is the image of a positive character in Wu Jingzi's mind? The novel praises Du Shaoqing as the foremost in both conduct and literary talent of the time. Du Shaoqing came from an official family with 3 top scholars and 6 memorials over 4 generations. His grandfather was a Zhuang Yuan, his father a Jimshi who served as prefect, and he was brilliant but disliked official constraints, and after passing Shuchai, quit imperial exams. Throughout life, Du Shaoqing was warm-hearted and charitable, never letting people call him master. Seeing those in need, especially filial ones, he always helped regardless of relation, often donating silver, eventually exhausting his fortune, and selling his mansion to settle in Nanjing. Though unafraid of authority and unwilling to flatter officials, he was benevolent and kind-hearted. For example, when County Magistrate Wang sent word to see him, he ignored it. Later, when Magistrate Wang fell from power and everyone abandoned him, Du Shaoqing took Wang into his home, not caring about opinions. Du Shaoqing's conduct, learned, loyal, kind, and unconventional, embodied Wu Jingzi's ideal, abandoning fame and fortune, accepting fate cheerfully, cultivating oneself while benefiting the world, perfect in morality and talent. As scholar representatives, the novel also describes and praises chivalrous people in common society. For example, the extraordinary woman Shen Chanji didn't care about wealth. Unwilling to be a salt merchant's concubine, she fled to Nanjing, living by selling poetry and embroidery, a rare, chivalrous heroine in the book. Additionally, there are 4 eccentrics in the marketplace, all common folks running small businesses. But on one hand, they excel in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, overflowing with talent and bold in speech. On the other, they're cynical, refusing to flatter the powerful. Hidden chivalrous figures in the world. And there's also the old actor Bao Wenqing, loyal and righteous. Because he admired County Magistrate Xian Ding's character, when Xian Ding was framed, when his official hat was at risk, he pleaded with the provincial judge, saved him, but afterward refused 500 taels of silver as thanks. A lowly actor and a high-ranking official became noble friends. Someone tried to bribe Bao Wenqing, hoping he could pull strings with Shang Ding, but Bao Wenqing refused sternly. Shang Ding admired Bao Wenqing's character and sighed. When those who passed the imperial exams and became Hanlin scholars talk about expounding doctrines, he says, "What's it to you?" Semicolon when they discuss broad knowledge, he says, "Miscellaneous but not profound, not as good as my friend." Single quote. Though his livelihood is lowly, he has many gentlemanly qualities. Sheng Ding's words express Wu Jingzi's heart directly. Someone like Bao Wenqing, transcending fame and fortune, embodies his idea of seeking virtue among the common people. This concretely shows his ideal character in mind. The above is an overview of the story of the scholars. We see that the novel uses fame and fortune as the main thread, with imperial exams as the backdrop, reflecting on ancient intellectuals' fate to ponder what a true Confucian scholar is. And Wu Jingzi's answer is having practical knowledge for governing the world, maintaining a sense of shame, and bearing moral responsibility. Hushi first proposed in his book Biography of Wu Jingzi that the scholar's theme is opposing the imperial exams. From the start, the novel uses Wang Nian's voice to criticize the Ming dynasty's 8-legged essay exam system. He said, "In the future, scholars having this one path to shelter will take literature, conduct, advancement, and retreat lightly. The so-called literature, conduct, advancement, and retreat. Literature refers to rites, music, and writings. Conduct refers to character and morality. Advancement means serving as an official. Retreat means retiring to the countryside. This means the eight-legged essay system severely damages scholars' knowledge and moral character. The Qing dynasty, entering as a minority group, paid special attention to winning over and ruling intellectuals. Rulers during Kangxi, Yangshang, and Qianlong reigns used literary inquisition to suppress anti-Qing thoughts among Han intellectuals. On the other hand, promoted the four books and five classics and Chenju Neo-Confucianism, using the eight-legged essay to numb scholars. This led to two consequences. First, intellectuals, especially those from lower classes, confined their understanding of classics entirely to eight-legged essay templates, narrowing their thoughts and career paths more and more. 1. Feed. Second, intellectuals only obsessed over passing imperial exams to seek fame and fortune, leading to moral decay and complete loss of Confucian virtues. Therefore, Wu Jingzi used Wang Mian and Du Shaoqing as examples to illustrate what true Confucian intellectuals should be like. First is Wang Mian, who had a real historical counterpart. Originally a scholar from the late Yuan to early Ming dynasty, he made a living by painting. Unlike mediocre talents who only focused on the four books and five classics and obsessed over eight-legged essays, he mastered everything from astronomy and geography to Confucian classics, becoming a versatile expert. He was indifferent to fame and fortune, didn't take imperial exams, never mingled with local officials or the wealthy, living a reclusive rural life. In the novel, Du Shaoqing directly resisted the reality of pursuing fame and fortune. He abandoned imperial exams, didn't exclusively revere Chenzu Neo-Confucianism, and advocated for ancient rituals. The images of Wang Mian and Du Shaoqing represent a reflection on what a true Confucian scholar is. Zhang Taiyan once said, "A Confucian scholar is a man of virtue, an intellectual who understands astronomy and recognizes droughts and floods." Confucianism says, "Gei wu zhizhi" means specifically engaging in the study of scientific professional knowledge. Therefore, Confucian classics teach not just writing techniques like the eight-legged essay, but practical learning that cultivates morality and benefits society. Great scholars from the late Ming to early Qing, like Gu Yangwu, Huanzong Shi, and Wang Fuji, proposed that practical learning for governance must break away from Neo-Confucianism, directly targeting Songming Neo-Confucianism when summarizing the Ming dynasty's fall. Later, Yang Yan, Li Gong, and others directly advocated for a return to antiquity, meaning restoring the study of Confucian classics and practical knowledge. Among them, Neo-Confucianism was a family tradition. Wu Jingzi's great-grandfather, who served as education commissioner, ranked it as the top subject for students. And Wu Jingzi himself was also influenced by the Yan Li school, saying that in his old age, he'd study Confucian classics to return to antiquity and restore ancient ethics. This was precisely Wu Jingzi's proposed path to solve intellectuals' inflated utilitarianism and moral decay. Wu Jingzi didn't oppose wealth and honor, just as sages also acknowledged pursuing them. Confucius said, "Wealth and honor are what people desire." However, Confucius didn't agree with obtaining them without the right way, meaning through improper means. Confucianism promotes the culture of shame. The scholars revives the culture of shame in ancient rites precisely through Du Shaoqing's actions. Others unscrupulously buy the Shuchai degree, hoping to become county magistrates or judges, wearing screw-patterned boots, presiding in court, throwing bamboo slips to order beatings. Clearly, these people take pride in wielding official power to oppress commoners. But when Du Shaoqing heard this, he felt deep shame and cursed, "Utterly despicable and shameless." Du Shaoqing's ability to see through such unjust fame and fortune and resolutely refuse to follow the crowd embodies Confucius's saying, Knowing shame is close to courage. Confucianism considers a sense of shame the foundation of morality. Mencius said, "The heart of shame is the beginning of righteousness," meaning knowing shame is the starting point of being human. Therefore, compared to people like Magistrate Tang who gained wealth through opportunism, corruption, and fraud, obtained improperly, Wu Jingzi admired Wang Mian's self-reliance. So, and his reclusive integrity, admiring the four eccentrics, contentment with simplicity, and praising Du Shaoqing's attitude of treating wealth like floating clouds while despising the powerful. In the novel, Wu Jingzi especially revered Wu Taibo. Through a character, he said, "The most virtuous person in Nanjing, past and present, is Wu Taibo, representing the highest Confucian ideal." Taibo, ruler of Wu during the spring and autumn period, famously declined the throne 3 times to avoid becoming Zhou king. When fleeing to Jiangnan, he took in refugees. He established a state, becoming the ancestor of Jiangnan people and Wu Jingzi's own ancestor. Confucius praised Taibo. Taibo may be said to have had the highest virtue indeed. Thus, in the novel, Du Shaoqing, Qi Hengshan, and others pooled funds to build Taibo Temple, performing ancient rituals during spring or autumn to promote moral education, hoping to return to ancient noble society. Through this, Wu Jingzi proposed his ideal. Ancient Confucian scholars had inner demands, superb knowledge, virtues of loyalty, filial piety, integrity, and courage to take responsibility. While exposing intellectuals under the 8-legged exam system, the scholars also profoundly influenced novelistic artistry. First, it elevated Chinese realistic fiction to its peak. As a Ming and Qing novel compared to the 4 great classics, The Scholars is much less familiar to readers. Why? Thematically, pre-scholars' novels depicted outlaws or monsters. For example, Romance of 3 Kingdoms features constant warfare. Water Margin focuses on banditry. Journey to the West centers on demon slaying. Wu Jingzi's novel focuses on the realistic lives of scholars. After The Scholars, in Chinese literature, scholars began appearing as true narrators, using scholarly language to depict scholarly subjects. The scholar life depicted by Wu Jingzi serves as a historical snapshot of contemporary society, greatly breaking through traditional novel themes. For example, stories about Jinshi scholars and courtesans common since the Tang dynasty. By Ming-Qing times, these evolved into tales of talented scholars and beauties, cliched plots of secret engagements, and distressed scholars becoming top exam scorers. In Dream of the Red Chamber, Grandmother Jia fiercely criticized such cliches. Wu Jingzi similarly detested these scholars' baseless imaginations. He portrays real situations. Miss Lu is beautiful as a flower, Master Qua a romantic talent, socially matched, seemingly perfect. But after marriage, Wu has Master Quo pull Miss Lu to read poetry while she insists testing him with Confucian governance questions, causing conflict. Master Quo then lavishes attention on maid Shuang Hong. Just when romance seems possible, Wu has her elope with a servant, leaving Quo facing blackmail and near ruin. Moreover, before the scholars, popular genres were heroic knight tales, contemporary works were chivalric novels. In The 3 Heroes and 5 Gallants, heroes like Zhan Zhao and Bai Yutang are generous, bold knights errant. But Wu's so-called heroes commit fraud and oppression. In Chapter 51, Old Master Fengxi fights injustice heroically yet resolves sordid affairs unsuitable for courts. Wu's focus remains Ming-Qing intellectuals' real survival dilemmas. Each character has unique traits. Even decayed scholars, obsessed with 8-legged essays, show distinct foolishness. Mr. Ma Air, an 8-legged essay expert touring Westlake, sees beautiful scenery but admits, "I can't compose even one poem." Old scholar Wang Yuhui's daughter weeps, wanting to commit ritual suicide for her deceased husband. Even in-laws oppose. Wang says, this ensures historical fame, yet pedantic people aren't completely heartless. After his daughter starves to death, Wang secretly weeps. Wu excels at satirical character portrayal. Actually, The Scholars is a well-deserved masterpiece of satirical literature. Satirical works have a long history in China, like records of the grand historians Confucian scholars' biography about Gongsun Hong rising from commoner to chancellor, satirizing the court's enticement of scholars and their pursuit of wealth. Wu Jinzi drew from Sima Quan's techniques like contrast and plain description to convey satire. For example, when describing Mr. Ma touring Westlake, Wu portrays him rigidly clinging to Confucian propriety, afraid to glance at women. But in reality, he scrutinizes boatloads of village women, not missing their hairstyles, clothes, or even facial scars. The satire in The Scholars feels authentic because it's rooted in reality. Wu Jinzi modeled characters on real-life friends, using homophonic names for them. For instance, Mr. Ma originally Ma Chunshang, mirrors the author's friend Quizhang. Ma Chunshang corresponds to Fen Quizhang, like Mr. Ma Fen Quizhang, obsessed over imperial exams until his dying breath. Until his death, Wu continuously updated the novel with life experiences, depicting exam fates and official careers' unpredictability. Satirizing contemporary figures also delayed the novel's publication. Lu Shan said, revealing original shape in officialdom paled against The Scholars because its plots lacked authenticity. Like when Fan Jin's mother dies, Magistrate Tang hosts him with silver wine cups and silver inlaid chopsticks. But mourning rituals required wooden chopsticks and coarse porcelain cups. Only after switching to bamboo chopsticks did Fan Jin become pleased. Seeing Fan Jin's ritual observance, Magistrate Tang worried he hadn't prepared vegetarian dishes. But later he caught Fan Jin secretly popping a shrimp ball into his mouth. This furtive bite exposed Fan Jin's earlier pretense, revealing him as a complete hypocrite. After Fan Jin passed the exam, his snobbish butcher father-in-law followed him, smoothing his wrinkled clothes repeatedly. A prime example of Wu's restrained satire, showing fawning behavior. Big booklers are Wu Xun praised The Scholars as poignant yet humorous, gentle yet satirical, seeing through without spelling out. Yan Jiansheng was a notorious miser. Despite having over 100,000 silver taels, he and his wife Lady Wang skimped daily, even avoiding pork. Yan Jiansheng had poor health and a timid nature. He toiled managing accounts and estates, while his immense wealth made him prey to his brother's greed, crippling stress that brought severe illness. On his deathbed, he held up 2 fingers, refusing to die. The crowd was puzzled until concubine Zhao explained, "Master worries 2 lamp wicks waste oil." They removed 1 wick. Only then did Yan Jiansheng pass away. This character joined Balzac's Grandet and Gogol's Plishkin as classic miser archetypes in world literature. The Scholars' realism and satire profoundly influenced later eras. During late Qing upheavals, reformist intellectuals used novels to critique society and propose national salvation. The novel's approach became seen as an ideal tool for social criticism. Many imitated Wu Jingzi, expanding themes to officialdom, business, war, forming the late Qing's condemnation novel, School, with officialdom most prevalent. Unlike The Scholars' condemnation novel, authors often took godlike moral high ground, reducing satire to attacks without depth. This turned mediocre works into mere exposé novels. Lu Xun truly elevated The Scholars' satirical art. He cemented its literary status through theory while inheriting its satire in his own fiction. Lu Xun said, "Hypocrites like Fan Jin and their scandals. Similar situations remain foreseeable today." Lu Xun's Kong Yiji was clearly influenced. Kong epitomizes 8-legged essay corruption, making it a satirical masterpiece. Whether lamenting Aki's plight or dissecting hypocrites, Lu Xun mirrors The Scholars' technique of exposing truth without direct condemnation. Truly, from The Scholars to Kong Yiji, both chronicle intellectuals' fates, Wu Jingzi's lifelong theme, rooted in his own life. The character Du Shaoqing is Wu Jingzi's direct self-portrait. Wu came from a wealthy scholarly clan with many Juren ancestors. Though an imperial examination dynasty and Anhui's Quanzhao, Wu's father remained a shichai, never passing provincial exams, enduring lifelong disdain from family and neighbors. Wu Lingqi of the elder branch had no children, so he adopted Wu Jingzi as his heir and rigorously educated him. He studied the 4 books and 5 classics since childhood. After his adoptive father's death, Wu inherited substantial wealth, but his free-spirited nature led him to charity and being swindled until bankrupt. Whoa. In his Moving House Ode, Wu wrote how swindlers abandoned him after taking his money, prompting his sorrowful move to Nanjing, the pivotal turn in his life. After settling in Nanjing, Wu plummeted from extreme wealth to poverty, and his ambition for imperial exams faded. Earlier, after repeated exam failures, he expressed frustration in poetry, clutching tattered texts, a lost scholar for 12 years, enduring contempt for never passing. Later, when Governor Zhao Guilin recommended him for imperial exams, Wu flatly refused. Thus, he abandoned exams forever, severing ties with official society. Nanjing was then a cultural hub where Wu befriended scholars and observed intellectual struggles. He witnessed their desperate chase for fame and society's growing coldness. This made Wu question scholars' blind obsession with imperial exams. In that society, exams were scholars' main path. But how to pass? As Chapter 49 states, Chao Mo, reading examiners' minds is the golden key.
Han Lingao boasted. My exam essays plagiarized classics word for word, that's why I passed.
Without Sat Momo, even sages would fail. To pass, one must flatter examiners' preferences like Gao. Fan Jin succeeded because his essay pleased examiner Zhou Jin. Secondly, scholars needed connections through mentors. Yeshi taught knowledge, Zongxi were exam officials. In Qing dynasty, academic teachers became lowly tutors while exam officials became powerful patrons. When taking exams, one candidate claimed Zhou Jin was his tushi. Hearing this, Zhao, as his examiner, immediately passed him.
Scholars treated exam officials like parents, forged through privilege and gain.
So, besides exams, did lower-class intellectuals have other paths? The number of government students in the Qing dynasty was exceptionally large. Gu Yanwu estimated that in the early Qing, there were about 500,000 government students, but the provincial exam pass rate was only 2%, leading to a persistent social issue. A group of low-status, impoverished students awaiting exams, especially in the Zhanghuai region, where the scholars is set, with a developed economy and large population but limited exam quotas, career prospects were dire. Wu Jingzi himself was a government student under Wei Zhongzhu. How did these students make a living? The novel suggests 3 paths. First, compiling 8-legged essay textbooks. Mr. Ma Er, trapped in the exam system, survived by helping publishers compile model 8-legged essays for exam candidates. This was called Ziyi, one of Ming Qing Nanjing and Hangzhou's hottest publications. Driven by exam demands, Ziyi sold well. Many failed scholars earned a living by writing commentaries or editing these essays. Second, working as a tutor. If they had no farmland or business capital, they could only teach in private schools. Qing dynasty tutors had extremely low status and meager pay. For example, Tutor Yu earned 30 taels yearly, barely enough for 3 bowls of plain rice porridge daily, with no medicine when ill. Third, becoming hangers-on for wealthy merchants. During Wu's Kangxi, Qianlong era, merchant status rose, like salt merchant Wan Shuizhai in Chapter 23, marrying a Han-Lin academician's daughter, showing Jiangnan merchants' growing influence. Some failed lower-class intellectuals crafted renowned scholar personas to serve rich merchants. For instance, Nu Yupu was Wan Shuizhai's hanger-on, but his arrogance violated Wan's taboos, costing him his job. Regarding students' hardships, Wu Jingzi stressed the importance of livelihood skills. This aligns with Confucian scholars' need for genuine talent and moral integrity. Land annexation was severe during Ming and Qing times, especially in crowded Zhongnan. Most scholars had no land to farm, no capital for trade, low teaching income, and endured humiliation. Thus, less resolute scholars easily lost their innate goodness in poverty. Quan Yang, who failed the Shuchai exam for 30 years, was called useless. He couldn't farm or trade, squandered his inheritance, sold ancestral land. Though he once taught peacefully, unable to endure poverty, he later turned to fraud and ended up in prison. Whereas Wang Mian, with his painting skill, could earn a living and resist societal pressures. Jing Yuan from the market. Eccentrics worked as a tailor but enjoyed playing chin and composing poetry in leisure. A friend asked him, "If you want to be refined, why not attend scholar gatherings to network with the powerful?" Jing Yuan replied, "Earning 6-7 silver cents daily for meals. I play kin and write freely, coveting no wealth, flattering no one. Heaven doesn't control me, earth doesn't claim me. Isn't this joy?" Oh. Like Ji Xiannian, who sold calligraphy, Wang Tai, who sold fire paper tubes, and Gai Quan, who ran a tea house, Jing Wan was among common market folk, with livelihood skills granting financial freedom and independence. These small business owners could afford cynicism without currying favor. These nobles hiding in plain sight, rare independent intellectuals, were Wu Jingzi's ultimate ideal. Wu combined indifference to fame with praise for reclusive spirit. Among 621 named characters Wu created, those despising wealth included eccentrics, knights errant, and hermits. But Wu's most revered hermits, reclusion became intellectuals' sole refuge in the novel. Wu Jingzi personally embodied the reclusive path with his life. In Nanjing, abandoning exams, he often relied on friends' charity when starving. He finally died from illness. In traditional culture, scholar officials faced tension between pursuing fame and upholding moral ideals. During Spring-Autumn period, declining nobility birthed China's first intellectuals, the scholar official class. By Western Han, Emperor Wu promoted Confucianism exclusively as state philosophy. Confucianism sought moral cultivation and inner refinement to achieve benevolent governance, fulfilling scholars' social value. But imperial exams, especially Ming Qing eight-legged essays and Qing cultural suppression, eroded intellectuals' ambitions. In 1905, exam abolition plus modern education's rise dissolved scholar officials into history. Thereafter, China faced imperialist threats externally and warlord chaos internally. Misery everywhere, intellectuals feeling utterly lost. On one hand, traditional Chinese civilization could no longer satisfy their spiritual needs. And after World War I, the declining Western civilization seemed unable to heal their souls either. Thus, some intellectuals, like Zhou Jin, turned from Confucianism to Buddhism, while Lin Yutang shifted from Confucianism to Taoism, ultimately embracing reclusion, finding solace in Taoist and Buddhist philosophies while using humanities for livelihood. Others pursued scientific research or industrial salvation, like Yan Jiansheng and Tao Xingji. They sought national salvation through industry and education, free-thinking intellectuals building value systems through expertise, benefiting society as public scholars. And this aligns precisely with Wu Jingzi's humanist ideals. As scholars note, modern Chinese intellectuals' history, character, and destiny are visible in the scholars, though imperial exams were abolished over a century ago. Yet phenomena it satirizes, vanity, snobbery, betrayal, still poison hearts today, as Lu Xun called this great but misunderstood book. The value of the scholars lies not just in opposing systems, but in guiding readers to reflect on utilitarian pursuits. If scholars' minds yield to power and money, where is their independent spirit? How can they fulfill Confucian social value? This is precisely the scholar's timeless intellectual significance. Well, this concludes our introduction to Wu Jingzi's novel, The Scholars.